Good morning, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me in your university. I'm extremely happy to be here. So, as mentioned, now I'm the vice president of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and before that, I was sustainability director of Decathlon company. And during my work, I studied a bit in England. I did an internship in Czech Republic. I started working in Bucharest. I was then having a job in Bangkok. Then I went briefly to France, and now I work for this international organization in Amsterdam. And all of that was made possible because of one simple thing, which is also the same reason why in this university I know there is a strong push to go to not only limit yourself to Boras, but to consider that the world is the burden, and that you have during your scholarship to go to work in some factories abroad, to go to test what's happening on the field. And again, this is done because of one very simple thing, which for a French person is rather difficult to admit, but just because we speak English. And just because we have this very common language and that we can talk to each other. And when I was having team members which were from China, from Vietnam, from Morocco, from wherever on earth, because of this common language, we were able to communicate, work together and make progress together. And the aim of the organization that now I work for, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, it's exactly to make that. It's to make this common language possible in the sustainability field. To talk the same word, to be sure to know all where are we now in our stage of sustainability? Where are we in our journey now? Because when we want to be transparent, we want to be sure that what we will be showing can be understood by everybody. As very nicely, as Simonetta framed that very nicely in the beginning, the organization was created now a bit more than 3 years ago, with Patagonia, Walmart, two very distinctive sides of the industry coming together and agreeing on the fact that first, sustainability, do we really want to fight about sustainability? Or must that be a common effort in the industry? Do we want to join our forces that, or do we want to make that a competitive argument? And so therefore, these joining forces meant that not only all the spectrum of the chain can be represented and can actually work towards sustainability, from an high-end, very advanced brand regarding sustainability to the one that represents the most, the mass market, Walmart, and that all of the together can work toward this goal. So that was the initial of it, and then they reach out to brands, and I'd mentioned now it's 50%, the latest figures of the industries which have joined the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. We have brands, there is a couple of speakers after me from H&M, from Patagonia, which are members of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. We have brands in United States, in Europe, in Asia, covering the entire spectrum of the market, which are members. We not only have brands, but we also have industry association, NGOs, we have governments which are participating on it. So we have academics participating on it. So a very vast array of people which are working with us on this journey to make that possible. But before talking anyway to have this common language, we had to agree on a goal. And that was the first step that was there. So first, everybody united and discussed. It took a long time, many meetings. You can imagine that is a complex task to come back and agree on a very simple and clear frame. And this very simple and clear frame starts by a sentence like we do not want to do harm, first of all. But most important of all, we want to be sure in the future to have a positive impact on the community and on the environment. So this is the common goal that everybody agreed to do. And then, so big celebration, we are happy to have the vision, and then comes the question, okay, but where are you now? What do you mean, where I am now? Yes, in your journey, where are you? Oh, I do audit, I have SA8000, I have certain types of certification, but everybody started to again talk this different language and talk about certification that were available, extremely demanding, but available in a small portion of the world, certification that were targeting a little aspect of sustainability. So therefore, it was difficult to adhere to everybody on that. If I ask somebody in the audience to take to have a shirt, and is your shirt sustainable? Some people will tell, yes, my shirt is sustainable because it's made of organic cotton. Somebody will tell, no, my shirt is sustainable because I'm sure it's made in a sweatshop-free environment. Then somebody will tell me, there is again so many definitions of what will be sustainability in your product that there was a need to converge and to make sure that everybody from now on will speak a common language when talking about sustainability, that we can be sure that when we want to reach such an ambitious vision, we know exactly all where we start from. to be able to move forward. So therefore, we came up with what's called the HIGG Index. So the HIGG Index, I will not say it's an Esperanto of sustainability, considering what happened to Esperanto, but it will be this future common language of sustainability. The HIGG Index, I will show you later on where you can find that on the supply chain. But just one little thing, the HIGG Index actually, thanks to Patagonia founder, that the name HIGG Index came, started first at the time when we decided to choose the HIGG Index was still a supposition. When we decided to choose the HIGG Index, there was still no evidence of it. It was just a particle that could be there somewhere, and we decided to take the HIGG Index to say this is our goal. 2 days after we decided to take the HIGG Index as the name of our metrics, the HIGG Index was found. So suddenly, I don't say we didn't participate in the finding of the HIGG, but what I mean by there is that there was a kind of smile made that what we thought could be a vision in the future, actually it's a reality. And I'm pretty confident, and I'm actually 100% confident, otherwise I will not be here, that this is the future of the HIGG Index in sustainability. That it will become this language for all sustainability effort in the supply chain. But what is it? Will be normally your next question. So what is it? The HIGG Index actually today, it's a holistic self-assessment. So I know this word holistic has been used many times, but yesterday I was given a tour of your university, and actually you have an amazingly holistic approach toward your work here. You have waving machine from a very early stage, the top of the art mini stentors. You can do the entire work of a supply chain in this university. So this is exactly the same approach that we had towards sustainability. So sustainability doesn't stop at the product. Sustainability doesn't stop at what is doing a brand. Sustainability also has to take care of what's happening in your retailing activity, as you mentioned a bit. Sustainability has to take care about what you do at your supplier level. So sustainability had to encompass all the aspects of a supply chain. So therefore, we have an approach to that. And as I mentioned earlier about what sustainability is, that organic cotton, is that a fair treatment in a factory. So therefore, our index, the way we translate all this performance, has to also encompass environmental performance and social performance. Because it's only when the two are properly evaluated that we are able to say, is your product sustainable or not? Then, the idea of that is that definitely once you are able to agree on this common denominator, then you are able to properly engage, and then the Sustainable Apparel Coalition will be also the starting place of engagement and understanding of what's happening there. Because also the way we are designing our tools, we are designing our modules, they are meant to be covering all the spectrum of sustainability, from compliance to advanced aspirational method, so that not only we can check that, okay, is there a fire extinguisher, fire alarm or whatever, but we can also guide the supplier to see, once you've done those aspects, what can you do afterwards? So also this HIGG Index can be made in a way that can start a discussion between brands and suppliers about sustainability in their supply chain. So technically, the HIGG Index, also the way we work at the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, so there is this, we don't want to reinvent the wheel at any given time. We want to be sure that our industry now, let's say the sustainability industry as per se, or the sustainability structure regarding the way to handle a certain discipline within a corporation, let's say it has 20 years or so. So during this time, there was an amazing array. One of your slides was picturing that, Simonetta, of labels, of things, of work, experiment, trials that have been made all over the world. So now it's the very good time for the industry to, if I was, as we say in French, to sit down and have a little café and talk about it, and actually just to see what's on the market there, and to, from all of those work, to take one and say, now guys, let's stop talking about it, this one will become the standard. And now, from the standard, we can move on. So that's exactly the work we want to do for all of those aspects. So as you can see, so the names after, I will not dig on that, so there was key organization that helps us worked on the social module, FLA, SAI, who both have NGOs in their board, which are also very committed toward the civil society. Same happened for the Eco Index that was taken from work done by outdoor organization in the US and in Europe. So all of that fed the work of the of creating of the HIGG. Sometimes it was a brand advance that was done. like the Material Sustainability Index that helps us identify the work regarding the product. I come back on that, and so forth and so on. So coming back of it, we took what's the spectrum of possibilities and we select the best and try to make that the industrial standard. And in this work, just a little glimpse, because there is 15, now 20 discussed, much more discussed. There is a lot of impacts which are being addressed. So this is just to give a glimpse of types of impacts which are addressed that I will come back later on regarding the work. And when we do this work, we want to make sure that we actually take into consideration every stage of life of a product. That when you design a product for sure to be bought. But more and more, when you design a product, you design it thinking, okay, it will be bought by a customer, but what the customer will do after having used it? What will happen to it after having used it? Am I responsible for the fact that at the end, this product will lie somewhere in a field, and because it's done in such a way that cannot have a future? So all of those questions are actually included in the tool in order to have also analyze of end of life and trying to see how from the beginning you can actually take that into consideration. And all of that, of course, and I come back to the engagement practice, is made in such a way that must be clear, easy to use, and easy to understand for everybody. When you, yesterday when we did the tour of the factory, voilà, again, this idea reflects what I think of this university, like very close to the industrial process. So when I did the tour of the university, I saw all those very nice experiments of fabrics that you have here. And jokingly, the co-host of this organization told me, Baptiste, when do we see the HIGG index on those little fabric? The aim here being to ensure that in the future, when you will want to make a cloth, when you will want to make a dress for whatever purpose, you will be able to have a very clear synthetic information from the beginning. The idea is not to give you index on all of those aspects with a big scorecard, whatever, giving you all of those information and have to deal with it. No. The idea is to be sure that all the work is done beforehand so that you, and this is the way that in the SAC we work, we want to come back with a very synthetic index to help identify how sustainable in your product, so that when you will have a choice between 10 fabrics, you will be able, just by looking at them, identify quickly where do they score one to another. And this is the way we are taking. I'm talking a lot about the design, but just to come back a bit, where do we put the things on the supply chain? So as I said, this is a holistic approach. The idea is to be able to cover all the aspects of the supply chain. So during the factory side, we have two modules, each of them giving you a HIGG. One for the environmental performance of a factory. How well do you use water? What is your water pollution management system? How do you monitor your air quality? All of that is assessed in this tool, with also gathering direct information from your product, from the factory. As well as a module regarding social and labor condition, which encompass all the questions from working hours to wages to chemical management to treatment, human resources management, all of that being encompassed and standardized into, again, one index to give you one clear metrics. Then there is also a retailer part. Very often, when you will be working, yes, actually, there is one of the retailer which is putting advertisement for recruitment in the university. So when you work for such a retailer, before going to ask anything in your supply chain, you may want to ask, but what are we doing in our retailing activity? How good are we regarding environment? Or how performing are we regarding our environmental management in our supply chain? Same question regarding social condition in the not the supply chain, in the retailing activity of those. So this module will help also retailers identify on both fronts, environmental and social, how do they perform regarding to others. Brand module will be here. Same thing, you will be working with a brand. Maybe because when you are a student, you are also a kind of consumer of job. Before joining a company, you may want to go and see how well are they performing regarding sustainability. Today, you have one choice. One, which is a killing machine, as you mentioned quickly, which is reading your sustainability report, which is 150 pages, validated by PricewaterhouseCoopers of KPMG, which is done in a very complex language, with, unless you have a PhD at Boras University, you will not be able to understand. So therefore, this is an approach that we can have, or you can just come back to have have a simple, nice little index from 0 to 100 telling you how the thing is performing. And if you want to spend a bit more time on this topic, click, and then you go to a full transparent information of data. So there is two approaches. There is the current approach that I was also in my former company doing those reports because it's the way it is done, which is very 2000s. And now that we enter a new time, it's time definitely to change this approach and to come back to synthetic, easy to understand and clear information to meet this need of transparency. And then there is two parts of the module, the design module and the environmental footprint, that we are working together with one of our next speakers, that we are working in a way to ensure that the best way to empower a customer again is to give the proper information easy to access. As said earlier, today you have to read a report, look at the label, look at thousands of information, and unless you spend a couple of weekends before going to a shop, it will be difficult for you to sort the products between each other. So here the aim is to be able again in the future, and I will come back on that on my last slide, to have a little label on your product that within a second, the same way as you have label on a car, the same way as you have label on electronics, you can see in a very synthetic way what's the environmental footprint of the product. And also one thing, because at the SAC we are working with this common language, as soon as you start to discuss about language, you start to see connections happening and you start to see things happening. And because we have this general platform of information, in the future the key idea will be that today those index are isolated, but of course at some point all of those index can talk to each other. Because we have on a common platform the social index of a factory, maybe in the future we can connect that to the index of the product so that you with your smartphone, a little click, QPR code on the product, clack, you see the index happening immediately. So of the social index. So because we have all of that on a platform that can help to make those connections. The same way as the environmental performance of a factory. I come back here, again, as I said at the beginning, you have a very good tool here, which is very industrial-like, and you are in a former factory, actually. So you know that when you design your product, the design of the product for sure has a part which is linked to how you design it, how thick it is, what type of material are you using organic cotton, classic cotton, whatever new material you are inventing. But at the same time, if you do that in a state-of-the-art factory, which is all close looping itself, or if you are doing that in a factory which you may not want to see your customers seeing too closely, therefore the impact will be different. Because in this case, it will be definitely two different impacts that can happen. One can be not state-of-the-art, one will be state-of-the-art. So at some point we want to link that also, to be able to have the clear impact happening of a factory being showing in the product. That will be the future type of development that our platform and the way we work with this common language can happen in the future. So now I told you, okay, so we represent 50% of the industry. We've been created 3 years ago. We have all of those modules covering the entire spectrum of the supply chain. Does that work? Will be normally another question. So technically what's happening is that now that we have launched the tool, we have thousands of factories which are actually using the tools. We have thousands of factories which are all over the world using the work. And as you can see, as it's an exponential curve, since this slide has been made, it already keeps creating. We have hundreds of brands which are using the HIGG index to score their own sustainability policy. So that means that we have thousands of brands that, hundreds of brands which are able today to already compare one another to see where they are strong, when they have to improve, and to move forward with that. So today, now that the tools were created, the tools are being applied in a factory and everywhere. And this will be able also to create a very easy thing. Today, you have many brands. And the way you work with brand, I don't know how many tools do you have to how many hardware solution, software solution do you have to design one product? How many software solution do you have approximately in the market? 2 or 3? Oh, sorry, who knows? How many software solution do you have to design a product? This is an open question. I have no idea about the answer. Okay, a certain number that we will take small There is a small number of information. That means that also being at a university level, you can be prepared to those. And as soon as you enter the market, you know already how to design your product. By having again this simple and standardized approach towards sustainability, this common index and measurement, that can help you also from the moment you start producing and you start designing your clothes and thinking about that, already use this tool to start to see how it works, what are the consequences of the designs you are making to the planet and to all the other stakeholders in your work. So also by having this standardized approach, not only standardized for the factories, but is also standardized for any people working and that will work at some point with the supply chain in the footwear and textile apparel. So there is a big already gain that will emerge from there. And then there is also another gain that you know and you will know as soon as you do a design, and you already know because some of you went to factories abroad, that those factories have big overlaps of members. Like many of our members source from one given factory, that many of them come, and today everybody comes with a different thermometer to analyze this sustainability. Everybody asks a different set of questions, a different set of expects some different ways to check how it works. So therefore also, by having this common index, we can be sure that once one person is going to one factory and already ask how is this factory performing on a sustainable point of view, that this information can be used by all the other brands. This is also a good benefit that we will use less time to work on identifying what's the problem, because we will have done that one time and for all, but we will have therefore more time to use to actually solve the problem. Today we have thousands and thousands, and actually studies show that we spend billions in China only to identify the problems. If we could balance back this investment towards impact and towards work, that could also make a big change, and that could also help improve and come back to our vision. So this work, the tools are created and now they are massively adopted. I just give you a blink of how our tool looks. We didn't prepare with the former speaker, but as you can see, even if it's voluntarily blurred, the idea is definitely to have in the future potentiality to see where things come from, to have somebody being able to map its supply chain in a very clear way. So from that to what you have shown, you can see there will be easy steps that could be taken if somebody wants to move forward on this respect. And definitely, once we have done the adoption, as I show you, so now we have created the tool, the tools are starting to be used massively. Now come the key point of transparency. Because as I come back to it, if we want to have this common language, it's not only to play among us in the industry, it's really to be able to come back and discuss with our customers, with other people in our communities about what exactly is the impact which is happening there. So we want to be transparent. To be transparent, lots of discussion. We want to have clear data which is properly audited, which is, speaking in English even after so many years, it's sometimes a bit of a challenge for a French, but which happens to be some of the work that definitely we are launching now to be sure that within normally 1 year or two, all of those information will be able to be communicated because it will have been verified. And therefore also every time we work coming back to it, a bit like you can judge about any adventure when you see the people that started it. Because of this full spectrum of people that started it, we also have embedded in the way we work the common ground of scalability of the work. Because very often to come working from a brand that was doing mass market, when Patagonia does something and when you come very enthusiastic to your head designer and tell, look what Patagonia is doing, what about if we do the same? They will tell you, but no, this is Patagonia, not us. So therefore, sometime we may want to ensure from the beginning that all what we are doing is actually scalable, because we have those retailers which are definitely in our work and working for us. We have small companies, we have factories, we have all the spectrum of people working on this respect. And just a glimpse about what the future will look like. So working closely with the European Commission, technically the type of things that we want to develop is clear and easy label that could be even more simplified than that. You could just have your little letter on the product. That could be standard. That could be all of those were tried in the past. In my former life, I used to have the first scorecard I did regarding environment Actually, coming back 10 years ago, one of my colleagues working at Timberland started by making one of the nutrition label of a product, which was actually calculating the CO2 footprint of a shoe. And the information was something like, don't quote me on the figure, this shoe is actually emitting 2.5 kilos of CO2. What do you do with this information? What's 2.5 kilos of CO2 compared to a yogurt, compared to an hamburger? How do you rank that in your daily consumption? So therefore, this brute information was not easy. So therefore, we moved towards a first scorecard because we didn't want to be the one judging what's most important. You remember I showed you there is many impact. Water, electricity, CO2, many of those. So one of the first work we did was a scorecard ranking the elements and giving A, B, C, D, E to all of those. So we had 5 elements with an A, B, C, D, E for all of those. We put that in our store, then we made our little ask and we asked our customers, what do you think about it? What I think? I cannot understand it. I mean, I like the fact that you ask me, but because what's best? To have an A on electricity and a D on water, or a D on electricity and an A on water? What do I have to do when I see those information? So therefore, we moved again towards something which is more simplified, and we moved towards, in another thing towards a simplified version. And now the aim is definitely to reach and to work to have an information which is easily understandable by everybody. And 2 points before closing that. So as I said, so now we have 50% of the industry, we have our tools, they are being adopted, and we are moving towards full transparency in partnership with any organization. People could say, yes, but you come from a big corporation, you have a lot of big corporation in your work, so don't give it to me. I'm sure that you will all score 100%. No. The way we work on it, and this is actually a snapshot of the first bunch of people doing the brand module, to tell you that the average of the brand score, this is on a scale of 1 to 100, so the average of the brand score approximately 25%. And the leaders that normally you will think, okay, oh, they must be 100%, they actually scored around 60%. So the tools that were created are definitely not created and exactly as the presentation with a 100% and 75%. They are not created to show, haha, look how good we are. They are here to be created to see, okay, we have some weaknesses. We know them. Let's be super transparent with our weaknesses so that we can work together on them and ensure to have the time, the efficiency to work on them properly. So this is definitely one of the good points that will arrive with this HIGG index, which is now currently being deployed. And I just want to close on one little point. Two little points. To have this job, I moved to Amsterdam. From Lille to Amsterdam. And some of you have already been, I should have walked yesterday in Bora Street, I didn't do it, I should have checked. But when you arrive in Amsterdam, what strikes you from a Latin person particularly is that everything is open. That all the house of the people, there is no curtains, that it's big windows, that it's super transparent when you enter there. And the first time, because you are Latin and a bit, what's happening and things like that, which they are not doing locally, therefore you see what's their life, and therefore it's you realize that sometime when you walk in the streets, particularly in the ground floor, when you see a house, you wonder, is that a house or a shop? Because it's so clean and neat and everything, because of these big windows open, that people inside have it super tidy clean. And so therefore it's a bit sometimes disturbing for when you see that at first, but it really shows that just by opening the window, there is an immediate reaction on what people are doing. And coming back again, when I came to this university, that reminded me of my former times when I was, not such a long time ago actually, when I was a student studying physics, that one of my teacher, one of the keywords of our physical and chemist teacher was, as soon as you observe a system, the system changes. That there is no neutral observation of a system. You observe a system, it changes. By enabling transparency, that will be definitely the road to this observing of the system. For sure there will be, and I'm confident of that, a positive improvement of the system observing here the footwear and apparel as soon as the HIGG will become the lens through the one you will see the system. Thanks a lot for your attention.